guys, today I thought I would talk a little bit about the plebiscite and what is actually going on. Fill you lads in. Basically, in Australia, same-sex marriage still isn't a thing. You can't get married to someone of the same gender. In most states, an international marriage still isn't recognised within Australia if it's with someone of the same gender. And let's be real, it's all a bit embarrassing, isn't it? We're the last English-speaking country in the Western world that hasn't legalised it. It's just, oh, cringe. Anyway, Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister who ran campaigns such as Stop the Boats to convince Australians that refugees fleeing from war-torn countries were just lads on a couple of boats coming in to steal our jobs. The same man who doesn't believe in climate change and said that if it's Indigenous people's place to pick up rubbish on the side of the road, then so be it. And the same Prime Minister who became famous for eating raw onions decided that Australia needed a plebiscite. But what is a plebiscite? Essentially a very expensive delaying tactic, but we're gonna get into that. There was and still is a lot of pressure on politicians in Australia to legalise same-sex marriage because, as I said before, it's just embarrassing that we haven't done it already. Also promotes the idea that queer persons are second-class citizens, denies them the right to visit their partners in hospital and many other massive legal benefits. But mainly the embarrassing thing. Now, what is a plebiscite, I hear you ask? Maybe, I don't know your life. It's basically a massive poll where Australians can decide if they want to change the definition of marriage, by which they mean change the definition to include all consenting human adults. And then we will know for sure if the Australian people are really ready for two dudes and two chicks to get married, like they already can in most of the Western world. This is embarrassing. So why am I, but a simple Australian queer, not all for the plebiscite? Well, to begin with, it isn't legally binding, so it doesn't really mean anything. There have been dozens of polls where it already shows that at least 70% of Australian people want same-sex marriage to be legalised. We already know what the general public want. Holding a plebiscite is just a massive poll for information that we already have with no actual change. But Fiona, that's not the worst thing ever. Maybe once they have their legit facts, one day they'll go through with it. Where's the harm? Well, it is expensive. It is very expensive. It will cost $200 million just to run this whole thing. Money that could be spent literally anywhere else. Healthcare, road services, renewable energy, buy Malcolm Turnbull a bloody sports car. I don't care. Just not on this, because $7.5 million will be going to both campaigns. The yes, let's legalise same-sex marriage campaign, and the no, we think gays are disgusting and dirty and should be killed campaign. Oh. Basically, groups of people who think that same-sex marriage shouldn't be legalised and also tend to hold the same views, such as like they shouldn't be allowed to be out at work, they shouldn't be allowed to pursue relationships, and they shouldn't be allowed to be public with their relationships, and some going so far as to say they should be killed, will be given $7.5 million of taxpayer money to preach that message far and wide. And yes, the fall campaign will be given the same amount of money, but I'd like to point out that the general public are allowed to donate, and church donations are tax deductible. So yeah, it is safe to assume that the anti-same-sex marriage campaign may be able to garner a little more financial support. And my main concern is the damage that they can do with that financial support and with being able to spread that message so far. In 1994, Australia came under scrutiny for basically, we broke UN laws by criminalising homosexuality in Tasmania. So that was a real highlight of our history about LGBT issues. And a plebiscite was held at that time, legit just 22 years ago, to decide if sex between two men should be legal. During this campaign, so many things happened, such as politicians, like actual politicians in Tasmania, encouraging the Tasmanian people to refer to gay men only as puftas. Gay men were compared to Saddam Hussein, and when they were asked if gay men should be literally killed and executed as they were in the olden days, some of the politicians said, it's not a bad idea. We have come so far as a nation, I will not deny that, but there are still people out there with very similar mindsets as that. Giving those people a platform, a time to speak, and $7.5 million to spread their message is dangerous. It's a safety risk for openly queer persons in Australia and will almost certainly, as it did in the 90s, highly increase the rate of suicide in LGBT teens. Over 85% of queer Australians would rather just wait. Let the change in law be made through the people that we've elected to make this decision, and who I might also point out, the majority of agree with same-sex marriage. The majority of people in the Senate right now want same-sex marriage to be legalised. The thing is, if Turnbull could promise that if the majority of Australian people want same-sex marriage to be legalised in this plebiscite, that he will make it happen, I'd be fine with it. Get it over and done with. Rip the band-aid off. But as it stands, it's an advisory poll, and there are a number of senior ministers who are refusing to say if they would actually say yes should a bill go through after the Australian people inevitably say that they want same-sex marriage to happen. Because a bill does still need to be passed, which makes the plebiscite very little more than a very dangerous and a very expensive delaying tactic. Anyway, that is a pretty brief rundown of the plebiscite happening in Australia right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this whole thing, I know it's kind of boring, but it's something I'm passionate about. What did you know? Subscribe if you haven't already, give this video a like if you liked it, leave in the comments down below what you think of the plebiscite, if you want it to happen, if you don't want it to happen. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, and I'll see you soon. Bye! Mwah!